referred to John Cena and the Mount Rushmore conversation about who's in the Mount Rushmore all the time, and because it started from a conversation about Roman Reigns and whether or not he warrants discussion in the Mount Rushmore. Not whether or not he's there, but if he's not there, is he at least worthy of a conversation about it? And then John Cena came up in the conversation, and Mike B, shout out to Mike, of course, said, Cena is there, and Cena is not only is there, he's snug there, 1 and 2, with Austin. And I've been, as you guys know, I've been away for 17 years from the product, from 02 to 19. That's pretty much John Cena's entire crux of his run. I literally stopped watching wrestling in 2002, right after WrestleMania 18. John Cena debuted on WWE television in June of 2002. So, therefore, I didn't get to experience John Cena in the same way. Now, obviously, I know who he was. Obviously, I saw matches here and there, sporadically here and there, but I was not watching the product on a day-to-day basis. Okay, and I always said that Cena was in conversation, but I never pushed Cena into the Mount Rushmore simply because of the fact that I wasn't watching it. So I can't necessarily comment on things I wasn't watching or experiencing at the time. But in the last 3 years, I've been watching, since coming back. Now Cena has not really been involved much. He's done, he's done obviously the last year's SummerSlam with Roman Reigns, and that whole 1-2 month build up, and then of course he did the cinematic match with Bray Wyatt in 2020 during the pandemic. But I've been watching Cena's stuff, watching documentaries, and watching Cena's stuff. This kind of filling the gaps for the last 17 years I missed. There's no question he's Mount Rushmore all time, and you can argue he's probably deserving to be even higher on that because the longevity factor. Think about this: 02 he debuts. He's the guy by 05. And then he's the guy for a good 10-year run. He also put a lot of guys over on top of that, too. And even today in 2022, he is still relevant. Like, there's no question in terms of the WWE relevancy, he's bigger than The Rock. Let's just go there. Is The Rock a bigger movie star? Yes. Is The Rock a more entertaining star? Yes. But when you look at tippy-top guys that were tippy-top guys for a long period of time, John Cena had that. John Cena was the guy for a good 10 years. That's Hogan-ish. That's what Hogan was in his first run from 84 to 93. That's Hogan. And Hogan's definitely my Mount Rushmore, without question. People say, well, Austin should be there, despite the fact that his career was shorter in WWE. Yeah, that's a good argument to have against Austin, but the problem is that Austin was also the biggest money draw in the history of the company, still to this day. Okay, the biggest run, and let's be real here. When you're a guy that literally saves Vince McMahon from going broke and bankrupt, whatever you want to call it, and it was put on Austin's shoulders, you get credit for that. Austin still to this day gets the biggest pop in the company, as you saw by WrestleMania a couple weeks ago. So if I think about Mount Rushmore, it's definitely Hogan. It's definitely Rock. Definitely Hogan. Definitely Austin. Definitely Cena. 4 spots kind of weird. I know a couple of my followers said some of them said Undertaker. Some said Andre the Giant. I think they're in the conversation, but I think those guys weren't tip-top guys. Those guys were foundational guys, but they weren't tip-top guys. They weren't guys you put the company on their shoulders, but they're guys that you relied on. They were foundational guys. It's a little different in wrestling in comparison to sports. You know what I'm saying? So the 4th guy, I might still put The Rock there because Attitude Era was so big that The Rock was still needed to be that guy. So I might still put The Rock there as a Mount Rushmore WWE guy. Honestly. The only guy I would quite consider besides that, people say Bruno Sammartino, but that's pre-Vince. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I'll go that far. But in terms of, does John Cena deserve to be there? Absolutely. John Cena, we're not 20 years in John Cena's career here in WWE. We talk about Randy Orton right now being the 20 years appreciation, and we'll probably talk about that on the next episode of this show, or Take 3. We'll see what happens there. But John Cena was the guy. John Cena wasn't just one of the guys. He was the guy. Okay, and he's been very influential in the last 20 years too. The spinning belt, and just the whole, and he stayed true to himself the entire time. He was controversial in some ways within the WWE universe. Being a good guy, getting booed at times, but they stayed the course of that. And now look at him now. He's historic. So John Cena is definitely a Mount Rushmore WWE without question. Without question. So